I have been so amazed at how many of you in Catalyst have risen up and heard a calling to write. And I feel so excited about it. In some ways, I feel pregnant with a bunch of books, and I'm excited about the transformation that happens as you're writing the books. But also, I'm excited about the fact that your books are going to be a calling card for future ministry. They're going to open doors. And sometimes one door opens, and then another door opens, and another door opens. And that's part of what I sense that God's doing. And so this week, we are going to continue in that vein of called to write. And I posted the Called to Write challenge, which we did on our Facebook group. I wanted you guys to know that I am going to post those three teachings that I did in Catalyst, partly because some of you were not there, and I'm building upon these concepts. So when you look in Catalyst, there will be the three teachings from the challenge, and then beginning with this teaching this week. So, just an announcement to make sure that you know I will be in Destin next Tuesday. So, there will be no meeting next week. And so, enjoy the sun, take a walk, pray, and just know that God's moving us forward together. So let's get to the teaching today. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So, as we're moving into and just talking about writing, I'm wanting you to know that I am going to cover today a bestseller launch framework. Now, traditional books do their launch framework in 12 months. So, in a traditional publisher, you would have finished your book completely a year before it launches. So, just for you to know, that is traditional publishing, and their timeline for that is an entire year. I chose, knowing that most of you are not doing an entire year, but I thought about myself, and my first book was Nine Traits of a Life Giving Mom. And that book, I had a publisher, but it was a hybrid publisher. So it was not traditional publisher. And yet, the reality is, I got enough of these concepts in my mind. I didn't have a year like that. In fact, it felt like it was squeezed in because we launched my book in the middle of two weddings. My daughter Rachel got married April 12th, and my daughter Angela got married May 25th, I think. And Mother's Day was in between there, and Mother's Day weekend is when we launched the book. And so, if you think about not an ideal time, and yet because of the subject matter, that's why we launched it at that point. And everything that I'm going to talk about today, I want you to know that all of these things I did myself as a beginning author. And I just prayed about these elements that I'm going to talk about and put them in a framework that worked for me. So I want you to hear this larger framework, but I'm also doing a disclaimer right now because I don't want you to feel pressured if you're not able to put all of these elements into your launch. I don't want you to feel pressured. I want you to know the type of things that New York Times best-selling authors do, and many of them hire a whole crew to help them. And so that's not what most of you are going to be doing, but God. But God was able to take 9 traits of a life giving mom and push it to #1 status that weekend. I couldn't believe it. So, anyway, here's the framework that we're going to cover. And phase one, you will recognize because these are some of the things that we've been talking about in past foundational trainings. So, #1, in phase one, you want to clarify your core message and positioning. You want to define the central message and promise of transformation. You want to look at what your primary audience is, the demographics, but then look at this positioning statement. And I'd like you in your homework, if you've not done this before, I want you to use this little formula. This book helps, and then I want you to put your specific audience, your specific avatar, if you use Catalyst Kingdom language, your specific audience, achieve, and then go to specific result by unique method or revelation. And the reason I want you to think about this statement, this book helps, is like when you put it in this simple formula, part of what you're doing is you're creating a 30-second elevator pitch. And what is helpful for this is that you're going to be having conversations in churches, in foyers, in school buildings, in elevators that are short, where you're telling somebody about your book. And if you're able to be real clear and talk about who who your book is targeting, your specific audience, what is achieved, and how you go about teaching that framework, that's going to help you find people that both want to buy your book, but also they may want to recommend your book to somebody else, a friend that may be going through something specific. So do this exercise. This book helps, and then fill in the blanks and begin to create a short statement about your book that's so clear. And as you're doing this, go ahead, if you haven't done already, research comp titles, other types of titles that might be similar, books that might be similar. The second thing that you're doing in this first phase is you're building your author brand and platform. And you can go back through Catalyst and go through our teaching on this. You want to grow your email list to New York Times bestsellers. They want their email list to be at least 10,000 people. So, what is your email list? Maybe you're starting with 100 people, your family, your friends. Just begin to gather those people that you know. And then remember how I taught about how to develop a lead magnet and then post your lead magnet on a social media post so that people are able to download it and then lead that to your ability to buy or pre-buy your book. So you want to begin to have these things in place so that people are able to find you. They're able to download something free from you, or maybe you do a free training on your topic and you schedule that free training as a part of your launch plan. Your homework is going to be you're going to do your own calendar. And by the way, I know that there's a number of you that are going to be watching this. For some of you, you may want your launch week Traditionally, books are launched on a Tuesday. You don't have to do that, but traditionally, that's the time that most books are launched. And you think of that from Tuesday to Tuesday. So if you want LifeBridge Press to showcase your book January 29th, 30th, 31st at the Healing Rain Conference, which I've told everyone, we have very small foyer. So I can't do this with everybody that's coming, but the LifeBridge Press books will have the opportunity to be focused on. Maybe you launch your book the Tuesday before the conference, and then that provides time and place where you are live with your book and talking with people about your book and, taking selfies, taking pictures, that sort of thing. That helps you. And as you're thinking about that, if you're going to write a book, you need to think about social media. And by the way, I didn't do any social media until God told me to. I hated it. But when I was called to write a book, that's when I started. And so even if you are at ground zero with social media, you start and you'll grow. And by the way, I am taking requests for trainings right now of what we'll do. I know another request that I've had is some more social media training. So feel free to let me know the type of thing that you're wanting to learn from Catalyst. I'm trying to make these teachings as focused on you as possible. But become become regular on how you're posting. You can usually look on your platforms and see when your audience is most engaged. But truly, just become regular. Post at the same time every day. If you're able to post more than one time a day, do that. But become regular in your social media. Think about it, like I've said before, that this is a pulpit that you can preach from. This is an opportunity to share Jesus with others. Think about, pray about what podcast, YouTube shows, live streams you might want to search in your particular niche. Just begin to do a search on YouTube. Who talks about this? And begin to ask the Lord to show you. And then basically, you're going to begin to build a press kit, which I realize that is something I need to train on as well. But you're going to make it very simple where you've got a letter that's ready to go, you've got a one sheet about your book, and the ability to say to somebody, hey, would it be possible for me to come on your broadcast? And just know that you are going to receive no's before you get a yes. And don't feel rejected by that. It simply has to do with, does your topic fit the show topic of the host? So begin to develop a content calendar. That simply means think about what you're posting. Think about what you're posting. Think about, for example, holidays. Think about that right now. Presently, what's doing the best on social media is Reels. So, what that means for myself is my husband and I we'll go out and we'll shoot a whole bunch at the same time. He'll hold my camera. I've got a simple little thing I put on my lapel and we just go for it. And the anointing of God always shows up. And truthfully, it's been pretty fun because we end up feeling encouraged. And why do we feel encouraged? Because everything I'm talking about is encouraging. So we end up enjoying it. So it might not be like that for you. It may be that you get regular in front of your computer. Begin to think about, though, that most people are watching reels this way. And the more that you can show at least part of your body, you know, uh, get comfortable with seeing yourself. And by the way, that can be the hardest part. We tend to be hardest on ourselves. But to others, we're just us. They're not looking at our imperfections like we are. They just know us. And it's the message that ends up captivating the audience. Begin to think about, and again, we'll talk more in the future on a Catalyst teaching on developing a PR kit, which basically means a press kit. Number three, in this phase one, begin to partner with high performing launch team. Now, you guys, this can be as simple as 10 of your friends, or it can be 50 people from church. Um, a New York Times best-selling author, they may have 300 people on their launch team. Um, uh, Most of the time, I have not been able to hire anybody to help me. But what I've done is I've trained myself to act like a marketing strategist. By the way, you can put into Chat GBT. You can type in, okay, this is my schedule, act as a marketing strategist, develop for my core thing, give me, and you can have it do 100 reels. Oh, by the way, that is how I started. I started with getting in my mind 100 things that were encouraging words. And that's how I started. Um, so remember, use the AI tools that I trained you in to begin to do stuff like this. Um, there may be people that you know that are an endorser. Maybe they've written a book. Um, I think of like there's several people at the branch that have written books. Jana Hoffman has written a book. Um, I don't know if Gina Calvert has written a book or she's a writer, but you begin to think of people that you know that may be an author, or maybe your friends on Facebook. Maybe they're a business leader. Here's what you're doing, you're just praying. Is there anybody that's going to believe in this book? Sometimes God will bring to your mind somebody way back in the past that you haven't talked to in a decade. And yet, when you reach out to them, they're like, yes, this is so great. So don't be afraid to ask. And if you're praying about it, God will show you. So that's all phase one, the pre launch, where you're just building your platform. Phase two, and this is where I'm wanting you to start to think about it in weeks or months, because some people may be thinking about this in a year, 12 months of time. I know people that have successfully launched books in 6 weeks. So what is your time frame? What is your date of completion? When do you want people to have the book in their hands? So you're thinking about all of that. And those of you that are publishing with LifeBridge Press need to also ask Honey Woods those questions, because all of these things take time. And so the more ahead of time you can be thinking about it, and on on Amazon Books, for example, which most of you would be focused on Amazon more than other book distributors, you're able to put the exact date that your book comes out. And then I believe it can be set up for pre-sale. So you can begin selling it before it launches. And Honey Woods is great at answering those types of questions. So, in designing and production, you want somebody that's a good designer that not only knows what it looks like on Canva, but understands the printing process. Because when you take something, it needs to end up looking good on a cover and professional. And there's a graphic artist is able to help you with that. And congratulations to Mary Ann. I hear that they've just finalized your book cover. That is an exciting moment when you do that. Um, you want to begin to think about your advanced reader copies. Now, here's what's great about the fact that those of you that are working with LifeBridge Press, you own the rights. So your ARCs can be as simple as a PDF that you send in advance to people, that they have that on the launch team. That way they've read your book already digitally so that when they get the book in their hands, they're already ready to write their review. Um, when you're thinking about all your language, you want to think about SEO and emotional connection and be able to communicate in such a way that helps you be found when people are searching for help in your niche. The second thing that you're doing in phase two is you're developing your digital ecosystem. You're creating a dedicated book landing page. Now, that can be a page that's a part of your larger website. It can be a page that's even hosted on lead pages. There's all sorts of ways to do this. Something that you might want to think about is developing a video trailer. By the way, I will try to post a link to my first book trailer. I think I spent $15 on Fiverr. If you've never heard of Fiverr, it's more expensive these days, I've noticed. But back then, I think the website Fiverr had just started. So basically, there's lots of people on that site. They're from different nations that what they do is they do video trailers, and you're able to do that at a very inexpensive rate. Now, I know, for example, Marianne, your husband is good at stuff like that. So you can think about that. You want to have pre-order buttons. That is a part of wherever they're getting books, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, IndieBound. There's lots of different sources. You want to work on your free bonus incentives. This can be a workbook, a master class, a challenge that you're taking them on. This can be a lead magnet download. Again, all of these things were covered in previous trainings. You want to have developed your email opt-in for your pre-launch updates. And then figure out what you're working with. And I know we've been talking about this for a long time too. There are Kajabi and what Go High Level. Both of those are more complex systems and they're not good for everyone that's starting out. Just depends how techy you are. Things that I've seen to be a little bit easier, MailChimp, Lead Pages. Some people really like kit. I have never used that one. So there's lots of them. And I know start with something that's free. I think I used MailChimp for free for about 5 years before I ever had to pay a fee. It may not, they don't give as good of deals as they used to. So you're probably not able to do that anymore. But just make the penny stretch, but begin to do something. One way to build the buzz of your coming book is to do it through storytelling. So, the stories that are in your book can all be developed into reels, or you can be storytelling with pictures and post. All of this, if you think about it, you're taking bite sized pieces of your book and you're making it available online. You can post quotes, cover reveals, testimonials. You can use a countdown style of your content. If you're 90 days away from your launch, you can be doing 90 days. You see what I mean? You can begin to do video teasers and all of those things, storytelling. People love behind scenes, and sometimes they love the more real and raw and edited. So realize that we're living in a new day here. I really like working with a launch team. The only time that I did not do a launch team was in my most recent book, Healing Rain. And truthfully, I found myself regretting that and wishing that I had done it like I did with all my other books. And so I want you to know I will be having a launch team. If you want to be a part of one that I'm doing, sometimes being a part of something gives you ideas on how to do it. I will be doing, for sure, I'll be doing it for the Women Who Move Mountains journal. It's a Bible study that will be coming out in January. And I may do a relaunch of Healing Rain. So just let me know if you want to be a part of the launch teams that I'm doing, and then you can use that as a model. And in your launch team, you want to have a goal and think about how many would be a part of that launch. And basically, a lot of times what you're doing is just starting a Facebook group, and the people are in your Facebook group. You're doing a chapter at a time reveal, and again, you're posting that chapter on Facebook or by email. You're doing it just very simply, inexpectantly. They're reading. And then part of what you're asking them to do is to write reviews, and you're having them target it for the day of. Um, and you're doing special things with them, like an exclusive Zoom question and answer. Part of what happened on my first launch is that Amazon just began to recommend me to numerous mom groups. So throughout that first summer, I had large groups of people going through 9 traits of a life-giving mom, in lots of different ways. Um, so be thinking about what works for you. Um, and by the way, if yours is a simple launch, that is okay as well. When we moved to Texas, truthfully, I hardly knew anyone. And my second book, 9 Traits of a Life Giving Marriage, came out, and we were just brand new. And so I remember feeling a little bit of loss because, my first book, I'd been in a community of people that loved me, knew me, and celebrated. And I did feel some loneliness in that second launch because everyone was new. Um, and one thing that I did, and this was with my husband, is we began to get a ring for that celebrated each book. Um, now, those things, commemorating the launch of your book in some way, I recommend it. Even if it's as simple as you buy a gift for yourself or a plaque or something, it's a big deal to give birth to a book. So celebrate yourself in some way personal. Um, Phase three. Now, this is more consistently 30 days before your launch week. And you want to think about a dedicated launch week, a very clear, the book launches on this day. Like I said, traditionally it's Tuesdays, and the entire week you're working on uh, making that known to people. Many people will hire a publicist to pitch. Truthfully, I have never done this. However, traditional publishers, they have done this for me. And so, uh, national TV, there's a couple of them I've listed that are national TV. This will be very difficult to get on these shows without a large social media following. Just know that these shows are looking for large social media platforms because they want publicity for their show as well. There's faith-based radio shows. There's online publications. Uh, for most of you, podcast and YouTube interviews will be your primary way that you're building this relationship. Now, um, here's the reality. Many of you in the future are going to be building your own podcast. So you can end up interviewing each other. That is a good way to build. And I think that that was something that actually helped me take off. I had no idea how to podcast, but I learned, and so will you. On this 30 days before, you're wanting to focus on pre orders. And that's why during that time period, you're trying to do free things for people. And by the way, it can just be one Facebook Live. And if you've never done a Facebook Live, that's a learning curve. But here's the truth, everybody had to do it once before. Um, and the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. You want to leverage influencers. Um, One of the things that I did for the launches of my books is I would make it very easy for people to share things. And so I had quotes that were gathered that it was very easy for them to share. Um, I had pictures that they could post. I developed a bunch of different things. Um, the easier that you can make it on people, the better. You want them to feel like they can do this almost by cutting and pasting. So, and being a part of a launch team, a book launch could actually help you learn how to do it for yourself. Now, this is a phrase that I do not use very often, but this idea of dominate social media. Most of the time, your social media, you're not selling things. It might be, you're selling something one time out of seven or one time out of five. But this particular week, everyone knows you're launching your book, and so you are just going for it. You're talking about why it's important, and the entire week you are just focused on it. It may be that you determine before the Lord that you're going to go live on one of your platforms. If it's Facebook Live, if it's Instagram Live, um, uh, you might want to use a branded hashtag. I remember for our marriage book, we used Marriage Rocks. Um, Hashtags, by the way, just for you to know, social media, they used to be huge and now they're a little bit less so. I think SEOs are becoming more complex. So it's no longer as easy as just a simple hashtag, although people still use them. Okay, phase four. This is the actual launch week. You've had this multi day countdown. Think about an ahead of time Monday. What are you going to share? Share author story, video plus prayer moment. Tuesday, launch day. If that's your launch day, celebrate, go live, announce bonuses, ask for reviews. Wednesday, share top reviews, media features. Thursday, thank your launch team publicly. Friday, highlight transformation stories from readers. That's an example of what Monday through Friday execution could be on launch week. Um, Now, on bestseller list, um, part of what's interesting is that when you there are a number of different lists for Amazon, and Honey Woods is a good a resource on this. And basically, part of what you're doing is that you're just watching on that page um, your book and where it is in comparison with other books. And it's really exciting to see your book move up. I mean, it can be an amazing feeling. However, for many, many people, that is not something that they experience, and it may be something that you don't even want to fool with. So, that again, pray about everything. But if you do want to be a bestseller, then just know what list you're looking at, and you just type into Amazon. They have different ways that you code the type of book. So, for example, a nonfiction book, your nonfiction, what is it in Christian living? Is it in women's issues? There's all sorts of different lists that are on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, and others. And on your launch week, you're just watching those. You might want to consider a launch event. I've hosted a launch event for an author in my home before, celebrated them just through a party. That can be a really simple, easy way to do it. Um, uh, and what's nice about a launch event, or you can do it a stream launch event, you can do worship, teaching, book signing, you can take pictures. Um, Pray about this one and what works well. Some people just want to celebrate with a dinner with their family. Others want to make this a really big event. I truthfully don't think I've done any great big launch events. Personally, most of mine have been online. Um, Although the week that my book came out, Healing Rain, I was speaking at Cindy Jacobs' conference. And so that event basically became my launch event. And it may be that you want to treat the the Healing Rain conference as your launch event. That's totally fine with me. You can take pictures. That's kind of what I did that year with Healing Rain because I was already speaking at that event and then I had my books there. It was really exciting, actually. And what we focused on, we truthfully, we just prayed for healing for people. And I still will hear back from people that we prayed for. I had a team of people. Tara Seidman was on the team. I'm trying to think if Brandy was on the team. But we just prayed for people. And that left a lasting impression. So God is just so good. Okay, phase 5. This is after you've had that whole launch approach. And by the way, this 30 to 90 days after is really important because what you're wanting to do is put this so that it's so simple and systematized that it's evergreen. So you want to nurture and expand you have built your email list, so you're wanting to do emails. Many people do weekly emails. I have never succeeded at that. I have a love-hate relationship with emails because I'm finding fewer and fewer people actually get emails. So just be thinking about what works for you. Offer companion resources, study guides, devotional challenge, a course, all of those things you can do after your book comes out. You can create ongoing funnels and offers that go with it. So here's a funnel, for example, book, then free webinar, then free course, then free coaching, then free conference. All of those things can be in there. So turn your book into a signature keynote for media and speaking engagements. And you've done this hard work of writing a whole book. Now turn it into a speaking engagement. And you will find that that's actually very easy. Um, Often you may have 10 messages in your book or 8 messages, not just one. So, and then going from there, you just continue to sustain media and speaking. You're repurposing your media clips into reels. You're speaking on faith, leadership, purpose. Um, there's things that you can do where you're getting to know other influencers. I would recommend Influence Women that I lead a chapter here in Dallas. And what's great about it is other women are doing media types of things. So, one, they can celebrate with you when you accomplish this, but also you're able to help each other and support each other. There's a big conference called the NRB, National Religious Broadcasters. It's the largest Christian media, and it has a large group of radio, television, podcast. Um, People do interviews there, so you're able to go and um, put yourself as a potential guest with your one sheet and things like that. Um, and this year, often it is in Dallas. Like last year, it was in Dallas. This year, it's in February in Tennessee. So just look up National Religious Broadcasters. All right. Well, I feel like I covered a lot of material and I struggled with it because I knew I could make this simpler and not talk about as much and it because it can create a stressful feeling where you feel like, "Oh my gosh, I need to do all of this." No, you don't. What I'm giving you is a buffet. And when you go to a buffet, you carefully pick and choose what you feel called. So I want you to see what I've done, pray about, and carefully choose, and let the Holy Spirit highlight something that would be helpful for your particular book. And here's the reality: part of the transformation is you yourself. And as you're breaking inertia and moving forward, this is just the beginning of what God has for you. And truly, the best is yet to come. And by the way, if you guys would prefer me just to stop recording, I can stop recording. Is that your preference? I know Marianne and Bola.
Sure. I just, there's so much material. I'm like, I don't know if I have a specific question. I have a lot of questions probably, but a lot to learn before the launch. So,
Yeah. Well, like I said before, don't feel pressured. And I really struggled with it because I could have made this more simple, Marianne, and outlined an 8-week launch. But what I thought is if I do this larger and then you pick and choose, there might be something that you wouldn't have thought of because I did like the larger picture of I mean, best-selling status is very targeted, and people don't realize how targeted it is, but it is very, very targeted.
I get still trying to get, my launch team. I have a few people that have donated through the GoFundMe that will possibly be on there, but I guess I've got to start there basically at the bare bones. And then
Yeah.
I need to work on the press kit at some point, but right now I'm just trying to get a team of people together and researching what I need to do to make that happen.
Yeah,
And I
and
talked to Honey a little
make
bit.
it fun. Make it fun. And maybe it is I thought about your book, and because there are people that knew your mom and dad, I found myself wondering for you, Marianne, if some of the people on your launch team ended up being people that knew your mom and dad,
Right. Probably
you know?
will, because we've stayed in contact with a lot of the people that were at the church. In fact, one of the people I sent the text today to see if he wanted to sew into the uh
Mm-hmm.
the book. I said I just wanted to, because I had a hard time with that, asking, especially this person. But I, told them what I was doing and that it was to honor my parents and that things I wish I'd have known and what I learned along the way,
Mm-hmm.
and that I wanted to help others and the resources. And he was like, "That's really neat." So he's like, "Send me the
Isn't
link
that
and I'll
cool?
look at it." And I asked him, other stuff about his family and how they're doing, and told him that, my daughter's probably going to be engaged by the end of the year and stuff. So it wasn't like only begging for money, but he was very responsive because I said there's some funny stories in there and there's pictures of my parents, and so he was like, "That's really neat." So,
This is something that I want you and Bola to really realize. Is that there are some people that will end up being the biggest promoters of your book. And they may come on your launch team, but you haven't met them yet. And I know that that's hard for you to imagine yet, but the reality is most of my launch teams were filled with people that I didn't know and had never met. But what happened was the topic drew them. And that's part of why the social media becomes part of it. It's just a way for people to find you and know what you have to offer. So begin with the people you know, but also realize that as you begin to post about it, it could be people you've never met before. I know that seems hard to believe, but when I truthfully, that is most of it for me
Hmm.
right now. People that I haven't met yet. But like this gal that I met with today, part of it is she got a hold of my book and she felt like she knew me. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
You know, because you're writing and it's very personal. And when the topic engages with somebody, they become, you know, a part of they're the best broadcasters about what
Yeah,
you do. Much better.
right.
Yes. Yes. So those are the types of testimonies. Yeah.
Like I say, it's a lot to comprehend and a lot to do, but it's kind of like stepping out of the boat. You don't walk on water if you don't step out of the boat. So I feel like I kind of jumped out of the boat with the book, and now it's like I got to learn the rest of the stuff that goes along
Kind
with
of
it.
good
So
like this.
I'm
Yeah.
committed now. So it's
We're doing it. Yeah, that is how it
because I
feels.
know I'm gonna
And
have to do interviews and I'm gonna have to do, get better at speaking and, work the confidence side of that of it, and so
yeah,
one
yeah.
step at a time.
One step at a time.
He got me
How
this
about
far.
he got you the I'm
I mean,
truthfully really amazed, Marianne. I'm so amazed.
it happened
Um
pretty fast. So
yes, I
actually,
am.
I mean, really, it did.
Yes, it is. And the transformation was in the process. It's like you began to see what was possible. Bola, I don't know if you're able to unmute yourself. Bola was at Upper Room this week. I got to meet her handsome son and daughters. Oh my goodness. That was so
Yeah,
fun. I
I
was so
know.
glad that one, I was there and you were there at the same moment, you know. I
Yeah.
thought that was so cool and just like a kiss from heaven.
Thank you. They were so happy to meet you too, and I was really happy. I didn't, I wasn't expecting it. I didn't expect to see you there at all. So,
I didn't know you
I,
hadn't met. I thought you were at the Healing Rain conference. So
yeah,
oh,
I was. No, but
she had never come to Upper Room, and I
I've
was in
never.
town this Sunday, and so she came just this Sunday at Upper Room.
I haven't been
And
to
so
Upper Room either, and I want to. So
It was really nice. Yeah, it was really great. Thank you so much, Dr. Sue, for this is so beautiful. I spoke with Ani about the book. So I'm in the process and she showed me I'm gonna share the document with that, the what's it called? Manuscript with that. So,
mhm.
uh, so I'm gonna, and then she has sent me the link for the payment. My question is going to be around. She mentioned that it was on Amazon only that the book was going to be listed on. So I'm just wondering, is it better to do websites, and how do we get it on other platforms such as Barnes and
that's a good
Nobles
question.
and other
You
and
know
other stuff?
what? It that is a really good question. Amazon is they dominate the market. That's the reality is they dominate the market. And most of your book sales come from there. Um, ah,
And my friend just wrote a book not too long ago, and I know she said she had hers on like 13 different platforms, but most of it did come from Amazon.
It's pretty simple to put it on lots of different platforms.
Okay.
But if you do that, the way to do it, Bola, and by the way, I've published other books and did this. And what you do is like I have an account with Ingram Spark. So Lifebridge Press is
Okay.
on Ingram Spark, and then Ingram Spark ends up putting it on all those other platforms. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
okay.
But here's why I was trying to stay away from Ingram Spark for you guys. Um, you get when Ingram Spark comes into the picture, and then it's
Mm,
Ingram and it's Amazon. Ingram takes all the money. So even though it looks like you're on so many more platforms and like Ingram can get it into bookstores,
okay.
but what happened is it's like only pennies would come to the author.
Oh,
So it is totally possible to do that. Um, the reality is, though, most of the books are sold on Amazon, and I'd rather it go into your bank account. And then what you do is you set up your own Etsy account, for example, and you're
okay.
selling your books. You're able to do Shopify and add that to your website. Um, there's a bunch of different ways that people are selling it now. You can decide to ship it yourself. Um,
Mm,
but truthfully, here's the problem if you go Ingram Spark. Uh, they technically will have it in bookstores, but bookstores buy books and then they send books back. And
oh,
so it is that is it's one of those things, Bola. Pray about it. And if you're wanting it on Ingram Spark, here's the bad news. It would be an additional cost,
okay.
to for Lifebridge Press to add it there.
Okay.
But you would also get less money.
Okay.
So it's one of the reasons I stopped. I mean, I was just like, I didn't feel good about it. Just the
Mm,
pennies that people were getting. So I'm hoping that by doing it this way, your number one sales will be when you're at a live event and you're selling your book.
selling. Okay.
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 That becomes your one way of in terms of your highest margin um, of sales.
I did have
Okay.
a question, not related to my book, but I just found out somebody that I grew up with that used to work for the city that I grew up in, and he was a city manager for years, and he's writing a book about some things that occurred during that time, but it's not, quote, a Christian book. He's a Christian, but so didn't know if your publishing did anything that wasn't a Christian book per se.
If it's somebody that's a Christian author, yes, we
Okay.
can
I mean,
do
he
that.
may already have
You know,
somebody, but I said I would find out if, you know,
yes.
you
I
out if
mean,
he used to.
definitely.
So.
Yeah, the reality is, yes, we could do that. Because I know that it's Christians that are going to want to work with me because everything I do, I pray, it's who I am. And so Jesus Christ is going to come out of my mouth. But there's all sorts of books like cookbooks, for example, or different types of books that are not specifically Christian books that, of course, we would publish. Um, and
Yeah,
but
I'll find
Bola,
out.
did I do a good job of answering your question?
Yes. Yes, you did. So, the Gap publisher publishing will be the one to print them out, because you mentioned Etsy, so I don't know how that dynamics work. Who is going to be printing out on in Etsy if I have to list it there, for instance?
Yeah, um, Etsy, and I shouldn't have mentioned it for you. I
Okay.
mean, it's more people that end up doing a business. So, for example, people make bows, for little girls, and they sell them
Yes.
on Etsy. And
Right.
so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes if they have a bunch of different things that they're doing, then they'll put their books on there too, because they're already set up to send. Do you see what I mean? They're already
Right.
mailing things. Um,
Okay.
But the main
and
thing is to get a lot of our friends to write that have bought our book to do the reviews on Amazon. So we get the reviews, I guess,
Mm.
bump you up where people will see your book, right?
yes, and
Basic way to get it.
here's the hard part about what you guys are endeavoring to do. Your first book, here's what it truthfully feels like. And truthfully, here I am. I'm a bestseller, right? I bestseller status. But I still felt with my first book that I gave more of them away than people bought. And that's just the honest truth. Because I would be in
Mm.
settings and I would feel like, oh my gosh, you need this book. And so I gave so many books away. And somebody said that to me. They said, look, consider your first book as a seed into
Oh.
your future. And
Mm.
it really helped me because um, it does feel like that. It feels like only pennies are coming from your books. I
Mm.
don't know if you saw, for example, Chris, Pastor Chris from the Branch Church. He
Yeah.
showed a check on social media where it was a
Mm.
check for 58 cents.
Oh.
And it was a royalty check with a major publisher, not a small hybrid, a major publisher. And 13 years later, he's making 13 cents for his royalties, or 58, whatever it
Wow.
Yeah.
was. And it was I saw that post and I laughed so loud. And what he did is he put a picture of the check and he said, cash cow, you know,
Yeah.
right? This
Yeah.
is, but
Mm.
what Pastor Chris did not write on is, see, that book positioned him as a speaker, right?
Mm.
And so he still has speaking engagements that are
I see.
continuing, that are much higher
That's what
than the
Okay.
book.
Honey encouraged me. She was saying that she liked my book and thinks people will connect with it, but she said honestly, once you have a book about something, people think you are an authority on it and that you know what you're doing. So they're more apt to listen to you. And if you're trying to we're trying to build our coaching business. So we have a book. So it gives us some credibility.
It increases your credibility. But
Mm.
this is the struggle, and I always like to under promise and over deliver. And that's the hard part about writing books. The actual selling of books, that is not where you make your money. That is
Okay.
more like a magnet that draws people and
To you.
opens the door for the other things that provide for you. However, the better and better that, because you're also growing as an author. So
Right.
the quality of the books that you write, etc., all of those things go into whether or not you become an author that is a well-paid author.
Mm.
Um, so it's just the absolute truth. So I'm
Good
sorry
to
to
know.
say it. And there
No.
there are a few people that end up being very, very well paid authors. But not many. And even like I receive advances, and what I receive is considered very good, you know.
Yeah.
Uh so they will pay me to write books with major publishing. But even that, you guys, when you think of the other cost, like the cost of your website or the cost of lead pages, or,
Yeah.
all of those different things add up, um, it really ends up feeling a little bit more like a ministry. But you also have the pleasure of, I obeyed God. Because I don't think I would be around the world like I am if I'd not
Mm.
taken one step and then the next step and then the next step. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so good to know. Yeah.
And
Mm.
then when I head to Pakistan to have, two of those books, like the mom book,
Mm.
in Urdu, one of my favorite places that those two books really went far was when we first moved to Dallas. We lived in an all Indian neighborhood. We were right at the temple. And
Wow.
so my next door neighbor like circulated my books among the Indian women. They were reading my Christian
That,
parenting and Christian marriage books. And I'm like, this is really cool, God. But
wow.
did I make money on it? No, I don't think I really made money on it, but I did minister with value.
Mm.
Uh, there's one author, she writes books, but before she wrote books, she writes Bella, like this whole series, and they have Disney looking characters. But the book she read that inspired her to write a book was My Nine Traits of a Life-Giving Mom. And I found this out like 2 years later because she wanted to interview me, right? And her book was coming out. She talked about that my book made her weep as a parent. And it opened up the channels for God to speak to her about writing a series of books, and how that ends up blessing her children. So, like, those are the things that I point to that I'm like, okay, it was worth it. Uh, you have to take all of this stuff with a grain of salt and not have in your mind the fame of our world or the celebrity of our world. You can't have in your mind, wow, once I write the book, I'll be known, I'll be recognized. Don't have any of that in your system, because there's only one celebrity, and it's Jesus Christ. Amen.
So good. So
Amen.
good. Amen. So good. Thank you.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, God, I just pray over quite a few people that are writing books right now that are part of Catalyst. And Lord, I pray that they would write these books to an audience of one. And Father, I thank you that you use everything to build streams of income. And so, Lord, I trust you with the other side of this endeavor. For everyone that's writing the book, I thank you for the coaching opportunities that open. I thank you, God, for the speaking opportunities that open. I thank you, Lord, for the personal transformation that begins to happen. And Lord, I pray that this would help them put a magnet out for the particular group of people that you've called, that they would make a difference in their lives. And I believe you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.